Hey, we've got another success story from MarkStevens.net. We've had been able to replicate the success that I've had on 3 continents, and just sticking to basic principles of logic, challenging the accusations that are being made against us, and holding the burden of proof to the accuser, because those who make the accusations bear the burden of proof, and this is why. When we're going against so-called governments, because they never have evidence of jurisdiction, never have evidence of a valid cause of action, and it's always about a code violation, that they're just assuming that the code applies, but there's no actual evidence that it does. They will actually argue that they don't need evidence, that we are the ones that are supposed to provide the evidence. Well, that's just ridiculous. That's nothing but BS. But nonetheless, we've got another one to add here. Now, Corey has been a regular caller to the big show. So if you've been following the No State Project the last few months, Corey has called in a number of times giving us updates. And for what happened here, so if you look, the violation date is September 2016. It was just coming up for trial in almost a year later in the end of June. Do we have the actual trial date when it was supposed to be? Yeah, right there. It's supposed to be the 15th. And it's been well over 6 months. Corey had filed the demur and the discovery request, where because there was not a prosecutor assigned, it goes directly to the police officer. Well, the police officer decided never to respond, despite the judge letting them, requiring them to respond to the Brady request and discovery request. The police officer chose to go well over 6 months without any response whatsoever. And so what we can see down here, that the matter was dismissed. He showed up for trial. Corey showed up for this dog and pony show called a trial, and the police officer decided to blow off a warrant. Blow off a subpoena, and what we would be charged with a failure to appear if we did not show up for trial. But if anyone doesn't think that there's not a double standard, that there isn't more than that there's a privileged class among us, here's evidence right here that you can see for yourself, that the police officer didn't show up. And once again, not only was it dismissed, which is congratulations to Corey on that one, but there's no charges against the police officer. Yeah, there is a shock. This was, in fact, in Blythe, California. And and Corey had asked me to just redact his last name and middle name, but everything else is there for you to see. That, yeah, congratulations, and we had this tossed out, and I'm sure the critics will say, well, tickets get thrown out all the time because the cop doesn't show up. Well, we've got quite a history of that. And it's possible the cop may have just not wanted to drive out to Blythe, or just didn't feel like picking up the damn telephone and doing it. He still blew off a criminal trial. Criminal trial here, because, yes, it is criminal. It was considered a misdemeanor. So, yeah, he blew off a summons to appear in court, risked having a, well, again, they know that they're not really risking a crime being charged because they're the privileged ones. But the fact still remains, the cop not showing up to a criminal trial, that in itself is a crime, blowing off a subpoena. At very least, it's contempt of court, which, of course, they're not charged with. So, bottom line here, it's great it got thrown out. There are other explanations. It could have just been the cop didn't feel like making some extra money, and it's not like he filed a motion to withdraw the complaint. He didn't file to squash the summons for him to appear. He just blew it off. So while there are other explanations for this, I'm going to go with the circumstantial evidence and show that, because bottom line, whatever the explanation is for the police officer not showing up, the fact still remains he never responded and complied with the Brady request. He never actually set forth a valid cause of action. He never set forth territorial and personam jurisdiction or subject matter jurisdiction over Corey. And if anyone disagrees with that and thinks that it can be proven that the police officer, had he taken the time to get on the phone and did the hearing telephonically, which, as Corey reported, a police officer told him very clearly a few weeks ago that, yes, they can do it telephonically. Duh. But if you think you can, that the police officer could have actually gotten on the phone and presented evidence that was not in the file, but still could have shown up at trial, proving that just because Corey was physically in Blythe, California, that a written instrument no one bothered to sign actually applies to him and gives the court jurisdiction, then please call into a live broadcast and just dazzle us with your evidence that this police officer failed to provide in over 6 months. So that's something that's not. So yes, we can reasonably dispute why the ticket was thrown out. You cannot reasonably dispute that the police officer committed a crime by not showing up, and you cannot reasonably dispute that the police officer was utterly incapable of setting forth a valid cause of action and jurisdiction against Corey. But again, if you think otherwise, you know what to do. Join us on a live broadcast on the big show. We have 4 hours of Anarchy Radio every single week, so check out markstevens.net for that, usually Wednesdays and Saturday. And I'd love to hear your evidence. Again, my name is Marc Stevens. The website is markstevens.net.